Leading our BCN News Bulletin tonight, as government continues to encourage private sector development, Niue Chamber of Commerce, in conjunction with the Reef Group, are also calling on workers to increase the labour numbers. The expansion of the Nonu farm has meant more hands were needed on board, and Niue Chamber of Commerce stepped in to assist with a new strategy to promote employment at the farm. The new scheme, targeting the unemployed and low-skilled workers who have problems also with transportation, will have a free bus service to the Nonu farm to work if they wish. According to the president of the Niue Chamber of Commerce, Avi Rubin, workers are sometimes hesitant to work because of transport restrictions, but the new scheme will have a bus service that runs early in the morning to collect all the workers and deliver them after work. There are two options, he said, and 4-hour shifts are given $5.75 an hour if the worker wishes to use their own transport, or $5 if they use the provided bus. Niue government has agreed to use its buses to accommodate the scheme. Community engagement, enabling resilience and adaptation to climate change is the desired outcome of a 4-year project funded by the European Union. The Pacific Island Community-Based Climate Change Adaptation Program covers 15 countries in the Pacific with an estimated value of €8 million. Julie Sutherland has spent the past week at USP consulting with various stakeholders in regards to this project.
USP is the implementer. The funds are channeled through USP to PACE SD, which is a centre of excellence within USP, based in the lower campus in Suva, Fiji. PACE SD stands for Pacific Centre for Environment and Sustainable Development. So that centre implements other climate change projects as well, and they carry out research, and also it's beginning to become an academic centre as well. They run a number of climate change adaptation courses. So it's through PACE SD who are administering the project for USP. The project actually began in 2011, but as I found in Niue, there's not a lot of knowledge of it, and that's mainly because there has not been an in-country coordinator appointed yet. So in order to get the project moving rapidly now in Niue, we need to identify an in-country coordinator and to carry out some of the activities that should have happened even last year.
But what is the difference between this particular project and the National Climate Change Project that we also have that is stationed with the Niue Meteorological Service?
Well, this project specifically focuses on community engagement. The project has 3 components. The first is capacity building, and the second and largest is, and 40% of the funds are contributing to community engagement, and the third component is applied research. And with all 3 components, there's a close linkage, but it's the most significant that I believe is engaging the community in and enabling them to become more resilient to climate change in order to adapt more effectively to the effects of climate change in Niue.
Julie says that another important factor to be considered is the importance of traditional knowledge, learning from past experiences or projects that can also be applied to this project.
There needs to be a nice linkage between traditional knowledge and scientific knowledge. And so that will be one of the outcomes of the project, the sharing of knowledge to what projects have been successful to build resilient communities.
A meeting was also held today for further discussions into the operations of this project to avoid any duplication. The project will look at direct teaching, interspersed in most sessions, and training of trainers program to improve the knowledge and skills of climate change practitioners in the region is also very important, as well as here in Niue.
Well, I think what is important for local Niueans is they will want to be knowing what are the outcomes. And I think one of the main issues facing Niue is the population decline. And one of the reasons that I've identified for the decline is climate change. Of course, there's a big attraction to be relocating to New Zealand. However, I feel if communities on Niue can their livelihoods are improved through learning to become more resilient to the effects of climate change, I feel that there will not be the shift as much out of the country. So ultimately, one outcome might be for Niue to see an increase in population rather than a decline.
Julie says that the project is now into its second year and Niue has yet to appoint an in-country coordinator for this project. Yesterday morning, the Department of Agriculture, in conjunction with FAO and the Niue Statistics Unit, launched the Agricultural Census of Niue 2009 book that outlines differences in agricultural activities and stocks available on the island. What was interesting also is the summary of the results. As of the 22nd of November 2009, 1,536 people were present on the island, with 1,239 being Niuean, 297 non-Niuean, and with a number of 466 households. However, 9% or 35 households were non-agricultural, with 2% or 9 households were involved in minor agricultural activities. 91% of households engaged in some agricultural activities, with 64% or 299 households showed subsistence activities. 23% or 109 households involved in subsistence or cash activity, and 3% or 14 households commercialized in agricultural products. The Director of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, Brendan Pasisi, said the census has given the department a good guidance as to the community's involvement with agriculture.
The actual collection of the data was carried out in 2009, and last year the Statistics Department, together with DAF, have been implementing this. It was funded by FAO. Basically, it collects the baseline information that we need on the status of agricultural activities on the island at this time. So it was called a agricultural census, so that we could bring it in under the current legislation that allows the censuses to be carried out. So it was a mini census, but it's really collecting valuable information that will tell us what people are doing in terms of farming, of animals, of crops, fishing and stuff like that. So really this gives us a snapshot in time to see what the status of those activities are.
And how often will you have these censuses done?
Well, the last one had been done more than 10 years ago, so this is really an update. It's followed the population census by 1 year, so we get an indication whether the information in both of the censuses has changed any, but really it provides us with a new baseline in order for us to be able to measure the impacts of some of the projects that will follow. So once we put projects in place to assist the farming community or the general public, we can then measure whether there is in fact demonstrated impact, positive impact from those projects. For example, if we launch like the chicken farming or pig farming, we will actually see at the end of two or 3 years that there's been an increase in production from the original census. It's very useful for us, obviously, and it'll be useful for other businesses to to look at. It will identify the areas of weakness that we have to try and put more support into the local production area, particularly now with tourism building and stuff. So we're already going down that track. This is really just a tool, I guess, for us to be able to put some measurement in place to make sure that we can in fact measure the impacts of what money is being spent, what energy is being spent, and resources to try and improve that. So if it's obviously not working, then we won't see a difference in those numbers.
Brendan also said the push for agricultural assistance recently is a great approach.
I'm happy in the sense that it's an effort to assist the people that are working in primary production. It's not a surprise to us, because having just completed the village visits by the department and talking with everybody, more than 70 or 80% of all of the people that came and all of the villagers that came did ask us to try and follow up, and in fact they asked us to re-establish the old government outlet or store that sold agricultural chemicals, fertilizers, pig feed and stuff like that. So I think if you can recall back to that time. So for us it's a balancing act. As you know, the policy is to support private sector. So I think some of the things that we are looking at is the price control board, whether the prices are fair. We have done our own research and conscious that there isn't a large markup already on agricultural inputs. So perhaps subsidy is something that can be considered, or a lowering of tariffs. But yeah, that's yet to be explored. So I won't go into too much detail on that.
That, he says, is a good indication of where and how to address some of the areas of development. Statistical figures released by the Statistics Office makes for some interesting reading into the number of travelling residents and visitors for 2011. According to the statistics report, arriving passengers totaled 7,772, whilst those leaving record 7,712, with a net migration of 60 persons gained. There were 1,655 residents that left Niue for various reasons, an average of 138 persons per month, with December remaining the month where most people left, 224 in total. As for those who returned, there were 1,678, an average of about 140 persons per month. Most of them returned in September. At the end of the year, a total of 23 persons were added to the resident population of Niue. Of the total travelling residents, the main purpose of travel was to visit friends and families and relatives, or holiday or vacation. A total of 28 residents indicated that they were leaving permanently, which is a significant number in terms of population loss. Visitors for 2011 totaled 6,094, with 1,645 Niueans, which was up 8% from 2010, and 4,449 non-Niueans, which was down by 5% compared to 2010. The number of visitors that returned were 6,057, and the main purpose of visits to the island were on holiday, 70% on holiday, 10% of visitors for businesses and conferences, and 16% visiting friends and relatives. This week, the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat officially announced the 43rd Pacific Island Leaders Forum meeting for 2012 to be held in the Cook Islands from the 27th to the 31st of August. The week-long meeting has been given Niue a platform in previous years to view many of the island's commitment and cooperation of regional agreements. However, many small island states have not been successful in their pact to hold larger countries to commitments, especially in regards to climate change. In previous forums, economic development and relationships between the Pacific Islands and its two generous donors, New Zealand and Australia, were always amongst the forefront of discussions. But as climate change continues to impact on the Pacific, more focus gradually turns to the most feared topic. At this year's meeting, it's likely Niue's Premier Honourable Tokita Langi will continue to draw on other smaller island states to cohesively address challenges faced daily by its citizens. It is expected the forum's dialogue partners will be present to offer assistance to the Pacific. They will include Canada, the People's Republic of China, the European Union, France, India, Indonesia, Italy, Japan, the Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. That concludes our news bulletin for this Thursday evening. We do hope you'll be able to join us again for our next news bulletin next week. Do have an enjoyable weekend.